Hello, everyone, and welcome to a chat with Severlin, our executive producer for Dungeons and Dragons Online, right here on twitch.tv/DDO stream. Happy 15th anniversary, everyone. We're kicking off our 15th anniversary celebrations today with the release of our anniversary event. We've got some free gifts that we're giving out. You can find all of that stuff on DDO.com. Additionally, this morning we published our latest producer's letter, producer being that guy, no, that get whichever that direction, him over there on the other side of the beholder, that being Severlin. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I thought you were pointing to the beholder.
So it all flips around on webcam, and apparently it's extremely difficult. Oh, I need to point the wrong direction is what I need to do. That's how I have to do this. So, how's it going, everybody? Welcome. This is going to be a hangout, a chat for the next hour. We're going to do some Q&A, basically opening it all up to your questions, whatever you'd like to talk about. In the meantime, we certainly have some things to talk about as well, like the producer's letter and any of the big topics that we know you are interested in. So let's get right to it. Actually, I should probably take care of these first two questions. That is, servers live when ? Should be within the next hour here. I'm actually keeping an eye on email, but we should be live with update 48 patch 4, that being the anniversary patch, and the new raid patch in about the next hour. So stay tuned for that, and I can answer that. And then also the question about will there be any anniversary-related bonuses and sales? Yep, there will. Those are also kicking off this afternoon, and we're going to have more information about that over on DDO.com. All right, so Sev, Salt Marsh mini expansion, question or comma, low level raid question mark. Let's talk about that in 2 points. First off, hey, we announced Salt Marsh.
Yes, we did. I'm so excited. So we're going to be doing that. Salt Marsh was big enough and had enough stuff in it that we didn't want to limit it to a normal adventure pack. So we tried to make it bigger, but we just couldn't. We just can't turn around a expansion that big. But we wanted to give it justice because, like, not only is the classic module iconic, but it's been recently touched upon as well. So we wanted it to be bigger, and it is. Our plans are big, so we're excited about that.
I don't know that we want to give numbers on dungeons at this point, as it's still somewhat in its planning stages, I believe.
I mean, it's certainly big, like what, 8 dungeons,
Like that? Yeah.
maybe 9, if we can get them in as we're going through,
Mm-hmm.
is what we're looking at. Landscape would be cool. And yeah, I realize the irony of just throwing out some numbers after you just were like, I don't know if we want to throw out some numbers.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't, as clearly as you are hearing now on this chat, they're not 100%
They're
set in
not
stone at this
100%,
point.
right? So like,
But it'll be bigger than a regular adventure pack for sure.
yeah,
So,
like substantially. So
yeah.
yeah, we're going to be going there. So Red Piety was saying, "Say my name, Seb." So there you go. You're immortalized in this small community.
All right.
Let's
So what about Hipporan as the next question? Is Isle of Dread not being thought about anymore? What's up with poor Isle of Dread after we announced Saltmarsh?
Isle of Dread. We're the artists all want to do dinosaurs. So do not allow me to uh, reduce the excitement the studio has for doing that. It's just too big for this year.
Yeah.
It's just too big.
Yep. Okay. I am
Um,
getting
we're
close.
constantly looking at VIP value, and we want to look at that. In fact, one of the lessons that we've learned as we've moved for the way of doing bigger updates and mini expansion is that we want the VIPs to feel they're getting good value during that time. So we definitely are looking at that. We're looking at tech to allow that. So hopefully the VIP people will be pretty happy that like they're getting good value from that, and that it builds into the VIP. That's one of the things that that's one of the lessons that we've learned. But unfortunately, early on when we were doing this kind of update, we didn't really have the tech to do stuff like that. So now that we're looking at that those are the as we're looking at the tech and what we can get accomplished, those are the questions that we're definitely want to answer.
What about a level cap increase? So we had referenced the possibility of one in, I believe, last year's producer's letter. That hasn't happened yet. What's our plans for the level cap?
The level cap was basically, our plan will be our next big expansion will include a level cap is our current plan. We went through and looked at how people were responding to our plans for the last one and realized that it wasn't the right time. We needed to work on some other infrastructure stuff. When I say infrastructure, what I mean is Epic Destinies. Like what we want to do is the level cap will come after the Epic Destiny revamp, and that's what we're working on now, is doing some cool stuff with Epic Destinies. We didn't want to do a level cap before doing that because we felt that it would be important for the players to be able to have cool things to do with it. One of the things about Epic Destinies is they're currently so different that people getting to level 20 kind of put their toes in the water, but don't really get it. So we want to open up Epic Destinies, give players more options to sort of level up in extra Epic Destinies. Once we finish that, then yeah, the players will have cool stuff to get for the level cap, and then we'll be working on that.
All right, I was going back through Twitch chat, and by the way, also welcome everyone on YouTube and Facebook. We're primarily focusing our questions on Twitch chat at the moment, but I am keeping an eye on your questions as well. We'll make sure we get those questions asked as well if we can by the end of the show here. I wanted to bring up a question, kind of a tough one, because that's part of what we're here for today, is to handle a couple of these tough questions that we expect you to sling at us. So we mentioned in the producer's letter about some lessons learned related to our previous attempt at a mini expansion. Not in this game, but in our other game. And we mentioned in the producer's letter that we learned a few lessons. So the question is, what lessons did we learn, and how will they apply to the mini X-Pact mentioned in the letter?
Sure. There's a lot of smaller things that we could improve on the mini X-Pact, but two big pieces of feedback is the VIPs felt that the mini X-Pact did not reduce the value of VIP. So we realized that once we have the tech in place, we really need to we really need to give them more value. So for a mini X-Pact, meaning that either they get more stuff or they pay less for the base edition. I don't know which way we're going because it all depends on how the tech goes out, but we definitely want the VIPs to when they approach a mini X-Pact, that their value. Second is our last mini X-Pact, we really value, but not the excellent value that our players have come to expect in terms of from Lotro. I think that the discounts, when you add up everything, were good, but I agree with them that we usually do a much better job in terms of excellent value, and that's one of the things that we want to address. We want the players to be super psyched. Now, the players have been very good about supporting us in both games over the years, and I thank them for it, and I'm glad that they continue to do so, but I want to reward them by really having the value of any extra stuff that they buy feel really good, and I think that that's something that we could have done, and we will do better in the future when we're talking about this kind of content.
All right, sounds great. Thank you. We've already asked or answered that question. I'm just scrolling through chat. We have a lot of suggestions, and those are always the toughest to answer because they usually are along the lines of "that would be sweet." Dunno. But along those lines, have we ever considered something like Night Below or Under Mountain?
I mean, sure, we constantly do that. One of the things about doing dark expansions is they get oppressive quick. We learned that with the Underdark stuff. The web was a little better because you're kind of floating a little bit, but the Underdark stuff can get kind of old quick. So we want to be careful that if we do something like that, it has a number of different environments that aren't all completely darkety dark, grimdark. For that. But right now, I think that we're going to be concentrating on, Saltmarsh, more classic packs, and probably the next big thing you'll see sometime in the future, not this year, will be Isle of Dread. So that's like completely different from that. Dinosaurs would be very cool.
Speaking of things that can be occasionally grim and dark, let's talk about lag a little bit. What are our plans for that?
So we've moved on, moving. So we're experimenting with new infrastructure changes on Argonescent. We've had mixed reviews. Some of the people say that it was a little better. Some of the Argo people say that it wasn't. So we're examining that. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the effect system and changes in order to do that. I went blank. No problem. So basically on lag, our main goals right now are continue to look at the infrastructure, but really the effect system is lagging us in terms of like some hardcore, how many effects get applied to creatures. Part of it is that we need to revamp our proc system so that it makes more sense and that it's more unified. Because right now there's just procs all over the place and that leads to it. Part of it is at the high end, players attack so fast. One of the things we might want to do is look into ways to make action boosts feel good without doing necessarily haste, like crit instead, but it would have to feel really good in order to move that. And the other thing is we just need to make the effect system more streamlined and perform better, because there are ways that it's being used currently that I think aren't ideal. All of those changes will lead to the game performing better, and the infrastructure stuff should help shore up some of the back-end things that might be leading to it. Also, it's just been a weird year. The internet during COVID has been bizarre, and that has led to a lot of it. Like sometimes we've looked into lag and there are just weird internet things, like certain places are having a hard time, and even though ping looks well, you see like drop packets on our end. So that's one of the things that kind of complicates it.
Related to that is chat work. We had a couple of questions about not just lag, but the chat issues that have been going. One of them saying the chat issue has not yet been resolved. Why is this happening? Why has it been happening since July, is the way this person described it?
Well, I mean, basically, behind the scenes, there are halo from some of the infrastructure changes that we've made that we're still tracking down. We changed the back end of how storage is done, and there's Halo. We're looking into it and doing that. And right now we're trying to bring more engineering resources online to do that. We're currently in the process of bringing more people on, so that's good. And you should see, like, hopefully we'll be able to see with more engineering resources, more people looking at that. Like we're aware of this, and so we're hiring currently.
Yep. All right, I am looking through Facebook chat and that as well. Do you have a question that you've maybe been thinking about queuing up here?
There are plans to upgrading the player models. We would love to do a revamp like that. Right now we do it race by race. So some of the newer player models look good. Some of the older ones look classic. We want to be careful because when you change a character that someone's been playing for 15 years, sometimes it can be jarring. They like it. So our experience, I'm sorry. One of our strategies for doing that, like one of the things we try to do is instead of changing the race out from under people, we bring in a new race. So like if you like the old elves, you can play those. If you like the wood elves, you can play those. The only thing I think that universally needs to be changed, which we're working on now, is the half-elf. There's some texture stuff and face options on the half-elf that I think nobody's going to argue that they want to keep looking at. So that needs to be revamped.
I need to ask a softball question because I've seen it now asked 3 different times. What is that map behind you on the video?
It's a world map, but it's an old-time expansion map. So it's like the world as it was mapped out with early explorers.
So an actual map of a real place.
Yeah. The sad thing is that because where I'm sitting, you can't see all my geek loot, which is right behind my chair. So you're actually only seeing the map. I think all my geek loot is just out of range of the various view that we present on camera.
Okay, well, just like I said, I had 3 people asking, what's that map behind him? You need to ask. So there we are, right? All right, let me see.
We definitely want to do new hairstyles and colors. That's one of the things we're actively working on now. Hopefully, we'll have some stuff in by end of year in terms of like more character options for players. Uh, Sometime mid-year, maybe we can look at that, but I'm not sure. The Find out what a Real Place Earth, any plans for graphic game engine remaster.
Question quite a bit. What about the idea of some kind of game engine upgrade or game graphics update?
Probably in terms of like we want to add certain graphic functions that are in more modern engines to our engines. There are plans in the work to do that and to introduce them to the games in the long term, not in the short term. That would be something for 2022. But yeah, the artists definitely want better tools, better particle effects. For instance, we will probably be bringing in some lighting improvements, but that needs a lot of work. We could use some shader work too.
Okay, your video might cut out real quick again here while I take care of an issue.
Sure.
I have to, for some reason, one of my channels is not muting as it must.
Can you hear me? You just can't see me?
No, yeah, they can hear you and everything. I don't want any of my
Well, while you're
Teams
doing that,
notifications going through. There we go. All
so
right.
repo mode, we definitely want to revisit. Um, how we do that is a question. One of the issues with Reaper mode is the difficulty of our because we haven't done a level increase so long, the difficulty of the content has grown. But yeah, we want to provide more Reaper options there long term. Cosmetic wardrobe, there's the way Mirrors of Glamoring works makes that very difficult. So maybe, but that's a long term thing that isn't in our short term radar. Our short term radar actually will probably be the mount wardrobe. We know that the players like getting mounts, but right now it just takes up too much storage. So we'll probably be doing a mount thing. So we were talking about that, and what we'd like to do is for the anniversary, maybe make the mount interface just free to everyone, as sort of like, hey, anniversary, here's a cool new feature, and just have it so that mounts become tokens, and once you put them in your mount inventory, they just exist there, so you don't have to have like 472. Yeah, wow, that was fast.
Yeah,
Did you really anticipate me talking about an
I took
unannounced
the
feature?
liberty of just kind of quick throwing it up on the screen here, so I hope that's okay. I think it probably is, right? So
Yeah.
you talked
So
about it.
yeah, I wasn't. I It's funny because like I was like, well, we probably won't be able to kind of show it off, so I maybe I'll talk about it, but uh, yeah, there's some kind of cool mount stuff coming, in that will make it better and easier to collect your mounts. That way you don't have to, like right now people are like, oh, I would love to get a whole bunch of different colors, but I don't have the bag space.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Don't pay too much attention to the particular avatars on that mount. They were just kind of all placeholders and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
In other words, don't suspect that I'm spoiling things.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, let's talk a
So
little bit about hardcore. I see a couple of questions so far in chat about asking about the hardcore plans for 2021.
hardcore season will be coming up. I don't remember the exact calendar. Was it April?
Yes.
So we have another hardcore season coming up. We want to make sure that we look into the balance of things for that, and give the players some options to maybe use some of the a combination of new and beloved past things for hardcore season. So we can talk about that. So that would be super cool. and people do like doing that and competing for that. So yeah, hardcore season is coming and as you would expect, probably some balance changes around that.
And we're planning 2 hardcore seasons this year, right? I believe.
Yes,
There'll be one coming up sooner than one later in the year,
yeah,
rather than say last year's schedule, which tended to be about 90 days on, 30 days off.
yeah. Based on player feedback, we reduced the amount of hardcore seasons so that one, they feel more special, and two, that the players can kind of catch up between them. Players were saying there were some players that loved it and some players that said that it was coming too fast. So we experimented with like slowing them down to see, so the players can come in and concentrate on them, but then go back and play normal stuff.
All right. What about hirelings and improving their AI? What would you like to see done with them, and is that something we could realistically see in the future here?
Sure. I think that hirelings, and one of the issues is the hirelings and monster AI, they exist in different systems actually. So fixing hireling AI is actually kind of a pain. We would love to do hireling stuff. In fact, I would love to do a revamp on hirelings so that the players could get better use out of them. Because I think that for a lot of the solo players, hirelings are very much part of their gameplay in a way that our high-end kind of Reaper solo crowd like, and I love that too. But they don't necessarily get as much use out of them. So we definitely want to do something in terms of improving hirelings, or even giving the players like more to collect, or ability to do stuff with them.
Mic needs to unmute. There we go. Okay, now my mic is unmuted on XSplit. 2 questions from YouTube, please. 4K scaling, question mark.
Yeah, long term we want 4K scaling. All of us are sick of not having 4K scaling on both games. The issue, it's a weird issue because the UI scaling is a hard problem to solve, and even if we solved it mathematically, we would need to redo all of the kind of graphics and icons in the game to be able to scale up without pixelizing. And it turns out that that is a massive amount of artwork that when we scoped it out was much bigger than we had thought. And that's one of the things that holds back kind of the 4K scaling.
I suspect a similar answer may also come to our second YouTube question, which comes from Cosmic. What about any movement on cosmetic storage for DDO?
Like I said, the cosmetics are the way the Mirror of Glamoring works is it doesn't make a cosmetic token in the same way as a mount could be made. It actually has a changed version of the item, which means that you can't easily store it in the same way as you could, say, crafting items or even the mount interface. That makes creating a cosmetic storage actually really, really hard. Like the mount stuff was hard and took us a while, but the cosmetic stuff would require us to be able to do a lot of data infrastructure work because all of those items come from everywhere.
Okay. Let me head over real quick to Facebook here. What about scaling, like stat squishing, like Guild Wars 2? Actually, he's saying, like Guild Wars 2, any plans for level down scaling like Guild Wars 2 and other games? So sort of this kind of stat squishes that seem to be a thing in a couple of other MMOs in the industry here.
Sure. I'm not saying that it won't happen. I don't have anything to talk about on there because it's so open-ended. Is it something that we've talked about? Yeah, but I mean the games that are doing stat squishes are doing 20 million DPS, and we're doing what, 10,000 DPS at the top end, maybe a little more if you're really into it. So we have a little bit of room there, but eventually when we do sort of system revamps, we want to look into a way of kind of scaling everything down. You just want to be careful because it has so much halo. Like one of the things that those games, Guild Wars 2 is good because you can basically play all the content. But one of the things, some other games have done that where they basically concentrate on an end game, and it's okay if their leveling dungeons are a little off for a couple months while they catch up. That's not the case. We couldn't do that for DDO. If it messes up, say, heroic dungeons, like that affects so many players that we have to be really careful. So the halo for that is much bigger. Also, the back end systems are based on 3.5. So as much as we love that, it was not built with scaling that way in mind, like some of the other games might be.
All right.
Changing default servers, yes, we should change them more often. It's something that we should look into. I'll ask about it. I think that one of the things is in our sort of cadence of stuff, a lot of the times it's not a direct decision to leave them on. It's more of an oversight. So it's something that we should look into.
2020 in particular, when we first transitioned to working from home, tended to fall around the time that we normally had done that work. And so in 2020 in particular, we were maybe a little bit off in our cadence there. So,
yeah.
I can ask a question about the Players Council. Question from Twitch chat from Tensenmo. The Players Council applications are closed. The people who are running the Players Council are going through those applications in the coming weeks. And we expect to probably get going on sort of the next session of the Players Council sometime in March. I can't tell you whether it's going to be early, mid, or maybe even a little later than that at this point, but something like that. So expect to hear some more news in the next couple of weeks related to that.
Right. One of the hard questions that came through is mega servers. We had talked about that. Until we get lag under control, until we go through and do the fixes we need to the effect system into the master servers, we're not going mega server because the master servers wouldn't be able to handle the increased player load. We need to fix some things, low-level stuff about that before we go on that. That was the holdup. Like when we actually tested it, we hit some even performance issues on the master server, which we weren't expecting. We know about the instant server lag that we're working on now. So once we get that in place, and then we can talk about mega servers.
All right, let me ask a question from YouTube that I see a couple people lobbying for. What about our TR caches? Can we ever get sorting with them? Can we? What are you going to do about TR caches?
Oh my God. So let me say something unpopular. The TR cache is not meant to be a storage area. It is meant to kind of hold stuff over and then you pull it out after reincarnate. And players have used it for a long-term storage area. The way it's implemented is not ideal for doing any kind of organization and stuff. What we'd rather do is give you better storage options so that you feel comfortable pulling the stuff out rather than doing TR cache. The TR cache is a whole separate system from our banking system, so it is unlikely that we will be trying to create interface with the TR cache system in order to allow you to use it as extra storage. It's not that I'm trying to squeeze you on the storage, it's just that the technology isn't that good for it, and we don't want to encourage players to use it.
Yeah. So what about more storage, better storage? More storage, more MOAR exclamation points.
We definitely need a character bank that you can put your character items in that's more robust. Like we have new technology for it. We can't add current character slots right now because they're implemented in the same way as bank slots that behind the scene your character carries them from server to server. So if we add more, the weight of transferring servers increase. We have the technology for doing it, but and that's one of the things we'd like to get out this year is a bank for putting character bound items in. That will not cause you even more lag as you move from dungeon to dungeon.
Yeah. All right. What about character housing?
Right now we have guild housing. I'd love to do character housing. I would love to have you be able to create kind of a secret base and have your hirelings there and stuff, but not this year. If we won't do it. That's something that as we increase the resources for the game and the engineering resources and the system resources, we can look into things like that.
Okay. Please, Reaper Wings. I've seen a lot of comments, especially in Twitch chat, about doing more kind of Reaper Wings. What do you want to do with Reaper Wings? Any thoughts about that?
Sure. I'd like to have, so right now one of the weaknesses of Reaper is the trees offer enough power that new players coming in can't participate. So as I said before, what we want to do, not this year, but at some point is change the Reaper trees into more of a progression system, so that, and then have a leadership system where people who are leading groups can give some of their Reaper power to the people in the groups. That way, if you take someone along, they're not just instantly killed. Once we revamp the system, we can talk about pushing the Reaper points up, but having them in trees and the organization of trees and the weight of trees isn't ideal, and we don't want to add to that right now until we have a chance to revamp that system. Hopefully we'll be able to put that closer rather than later once we get more engineering resources, which we're, as I said, currently looking for and trying to bring on.
On the wish list side of things, we have someone from Facebook asking, what about ever getting Greyhawk to DDO?
I don't think that will happen. There are, I don't want to go into, I never want to talk about licensing issues here, but we don't, to really do a whole nother world justice, we would have to, let's just say this. Many of the classic packs are vague in terms of where they take care of, and we intentionally leave them vague so that you can imagine whatever world you're in. But I would not create a whole nother sort of world for Greyhawk at the time right now, because we're already supporting both Eberron and Forgotten Realms, and there are players already who wanting more for both of those, if that makes sense.
So what about more Forgotten Realms stuff in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely would love to do more Forgotten Realms stuff.
Since we're doing wish lists, Planescape question mark?
It's a whole nother world to do. So we're not moving that direction in the short term, because in order to do it justice would be doing Planescape would be much bigger than an expansion, in my opinion, to do it justice. And so it would take so much time of the team that I think we would not be well served to not have content come out for a year while we're working on Planescape.
All right, one more wish list question then before I get to maybe some that we can answer a little more thoroughly. What about ever doing psionics? I know that is a passion of yours to some extent that you've just talked a little bit about in the past.
I would love to do psionics. Doing the Alchemist was fun and great, but doing a full spell tree, let's just say that took us a lot longer than we thought it would. And so when doing psionics, we would basically have to redo that work. So we have to be very careful about scoping that. Usually, basically, the Alchemist took almost 3 times longer than other previous classes we did because we couldn't reuse any of the spells, and it was a tremendous amount of work. It turns out that doing the initial work to get the spells in actually wasn't the problem. It was all of the fine-tuning, balance, and detail work was way more. So doing psionics and creating a whole nother spell system would be something that we could do, but not short-term. Because now that we kind of understand the scope of doing a whole nother spell system, we would have to be very careful about going into that. I mean, I would love to do an Astral Plane Githyanki psionics expansion. Like, I love that, and we always are looking at that, but the scoping of doing that is so big. Like, you just have to be careful that we just don't get sucked into that hole, right?
Yeah. All right. What about any change? This one's from Strimtom. Any changes to the scroll seal shard system coming in the future?
I mean, there's always a chance for doing that in terms of old-time content. We have touched upon it before, but we're not introducing that system we probably won't be adding that system to like Saltmarsh or anything in the short term. But as we go through and touch packs, there's a chance that we could look into that.
I see some Monk players asking us about Monk work in the future. Maybe we could both talk about that and any possibility of what you see class balance work looking like here in 2021.
Class balance is ongoing. Basically, what ends up happening is we touch upon class balance when we do a new hardcore season, so the players can usually know that, like, hey, this hardcore season, like, what are we touching now? Right now, our focus on systems is fixing bows. That's why you haven't seen other things, and that has gotten pretty deep because the bow problem was deeper than just doing some numbers. Once we dug into it, there was some serious issues with animation and animation speed, and how that affected how they worked with haste, like the spell haste and attack speed. And so the bow thing, not only will there be new tree coming later in the year, but the bow changes are really about redoing the bow animations. And that's something that we're deep into, and the bow animation changes are something that's looking great. I really like how they look so far. They're still being fine-tuned. So once we do the bow changes, then we'll be in a position where we can kind of move on to other classes. Bows have been behind crossbows for a long time. Part of it is because the animations were so slow, and the way they were implemented, we just couldn't speed them up anymore. So that has been a tremendous thing that the team has kind of taken on in the short term, and you should be seeing some stuff with bow changes soon, even if the Horizon Walker tree isn't going to happen like immediately, but rather later in the year. So that's where our class balance is right now in terms of that.
At this point, I can't remember if we brought up this topic yet or not, but we have some folks, including Matthew over on Facebook, asking about our Epic Destiny work. What are our plans for Epic Destinies, to the extent we can talk about them here for 2021?
Sure. One of the things that we want to do is we want to make the Epic Destinies work more like the heroic trees, because when the players come from the heroic trees, which they love, and they go into Epic Destinies, it's so different and it requires so much to kind of like open them that they feel like it's not accessible. So I would imagine that players who, with that opinion, will be pleased that the Epic Destinies will open up more like heroic trees, and you'll be able to spend points in multiple Epic Destiny trees in a manner that you can kind of cross spend into the heroic trees as well. That means that it also opens up a lot of build possibilities, because instead of being, I'm Shadow Dancer and I probably put these points into these things, it will be, I'm going to go Shadow Dancer for some of the points and Dreadnought for some of the points, and see how that works. So that creates a whole bunch of new build opportunities for the players. In addition, obviously with the Epic Destiny revamp, there are a handful of Epic Destinies that everyone uses, and then a whole bunch that people just kind of don't. So we want to make those more exciting and rebalanced as well. So hopefully the end goal will be that. Right now, what Epic Destiny you use is kind of predetermined a little bit by like what you're trying to do. But we're trying to open that up so that you have a lot of different options and flavors for that.
I would like to announce to everyone watching this live that as of about 3 minutes ago, we are now live on the Game Worlds. Everything's green. Green is go. You're welcome to log in if you'd like. And use the coupon code HAPPY15DDO.
I assume I shouldn't fail on this and just run over to the live servers.
Well, I want to talk. I want to do the raid. I need to do the new raid tonight. But yeah. But also the coupon code HAPPY15DDO. HAPPY15DDO will get you those free gifts, and you've got through the end of December plenty of time to redeem it. But redeem it now. Why not? And you're going to get a raid item from a select list, similar to what we did in the 10th anniversary, but a different list. And then also a 15th anniversary cloak. And you can find out more at ddo.com/15th anniversary. So where were you 15 years ago?
Where was I 15 years ago?
Yeah, what were you doing when DDO got released?
What was I doing? I think I was programming interfaces to scientific instruments like electron microscopes.
Okay.
Maybe. Was that about where I was? I might have been working on other kinds of software. That might, DDO might actually even predate that time. So Let's see. So some hard stuff, monks. Yeah, we know that the players kind of want to do monks. Bows were in a sadder state and affect more classes. So let us get through that. Somebody's asking about twitching and chopping in order to get extra raid stuff, in order to get extra DPS in raids rather, and that's something that's on our radar and we're looking at. It turns out that that's a really hard problem to solve without causing halo, so we're looking at that. Let's see, what other hard questions so you don't think I'm ducking you. Let's see. You're supposed to be made to Bard today. Augments. Yeah, we probably have Augment Halo still. Thank you for bringing that up. Shifter, allowing them to use hand wraps. Let's work on Shifter first. And then let's see what else. 15 years ago.
Halo, by the way, for someone saying Halo means, quote, problems up the tree. Can we explain a little bit what we mean by Halo when we say a Halo bug?
Yeah, so what ends up happening is the code in any long-term code base, you have code built on code, and so Halo is when you change something here and you don't expect it to affect other systems, but it does. For instance, if we made a change to the Epic Destinies and there was some shared code, we may not realize that we also did something to break heroic trees. That would be an example. Or we made a change to this race and we didn't realize that another race also used the same animation script. And so we make a change to this race to fix something, but this other race now is much slower. So Halo is kind of that intended effect. Usually, hopefully with good engineers for new code, it's less of a problem because everything is kind of, well organized. And then as people layer on and people have different design philosophies and you have generations, like for DDO, literally generations of programmers coming in, the chance for Halo grows a lot of times with these longer projects.
I see in chat, yes, after you enter Happy 15 DDO to redeem your coupon code in the DDO store, you need to log out and log back in for that very first time to do it, because that's how it does. It applies a little thing to your account, and then when you log back in, it gets you all this stuff. So yes, to Twitch chat, you do need to log out real quick after redeeming that code in order to get your stuff.
Yeah, if you see stuff as a result of today's patch, this Twitch chat is not your best place to post it.
Yeah, a year from now, it's going to be somewhat less relevant, huh?
I would go to the forums.
Yeah.
I care deeply, but I'm not going to be able to cut and paste out of the Twitch chat to start looking for things.
Yeah, I'm trying to find some good questions. We've got a little time yet here. I'm looking at the clock. We have about 15 minutes left on the clock here, so it's a good time to, if you've been in chat and looking to ask some questions, maybe been a little afraid to ask questions, feel free to ask them. I'm going to be scrolling back through the list to see what kind of stuff we can find, but it's a great opportunity to ask your question if you'd like to.
So our goal is that the epic reincarnation loop will not change, right? When you do an epic reincarnation, it will bring you from 20 to 30, and you won't be required to go to 31, 32. That's one of the design goals, is that epic destiny reincarnation stays the same. Because I know that one of the concerns people had with level increases in the past is it tended to increase the reincarnation loop, but we don't want that. So yes, that reincarnation loop will stay to 30 in terms of past lives for it. Does that make sense?
Yep. Question that's come up in chat here, along with on the forums, I know in recent days. What about a new heroic raid? Do we ever have plans to do another heroic raid?
Well, I mean, most of our raids have, a number of our raids also have a heroic version. But there are some that we keep to top end because that's where we want to balance it. Yeah, I mean, we'd love to. One of the things we don't see, though, is we don't see a lot of We don't see a lot of heroic people in that loop kind of going and raiding during that time because they're more interested in doing small group experiences that are moving them sort of up the chain. And so a raid is hard to do because you will get past the loot so quick. Also, a lot of our longer term players already have kind of their loot at each uh, level band is. So we want to be careful. If we can do a heroic raid to give the heroic people more stuff to do, that's great. But if it takes too much time, the amount of people that jump into heroic raids are not as high as you would expect because of how the play patterns work. So we wouldn't want to spend a lot of our precious development budget doing stuff that a lot of the players will kind of skip because they're kind of moving past that so fast.
Related to the leveling process, Zakaria mentions in Twitch chat, how do we feel about levels 22, 23, and 25? This person is offering their opinion on it, which is that there are no feats and it feels like dead levels. Is that intentional or an unfortunate accident? How do we feel about the low 20 leveling experience? And my understanding is that's at least part of our thinking on this upcoming Epic Destiny work, right?
Sure. Like one of the things that will happen is, unlike Epic Destinies now, you should, as you level through those, be able to invest in your Epic Destinies. And so, yeah, maybe you won't get an extra feat right now. I don't know that we're revamping those, but like being able to spend, your 4 points in Epic Destinies as you go up, like heroic, will feel good. And that's one of the things that is happening now. So hopefully that will help. If that's what they mean in terms of like, hey, I leveled and nothing happened. That should help. I would love to do more loot work in terms of sets for low-level epics, and what your best thing to do is suggest packs. We occasionally revamp packs like we did Dolaris and stuff, and usually we touch the loot when we revamp the packs. That's our strategy. So if there are packs that you would love to see revamped, like that's a great thing to bring up on the forums, or and be like, hey, this pack I would love to revamp. It has cool loot, but the loot has fallen behind. We're always looking for packs to revamp, especially packs that the players are like, oh, the content's good, but I don't play it anymore because it isn't rewarding enough. Those are good things to look at.
All right. Yeah. It sounds good. Sorry, I've got something happening in my kitchen.
There are a lot of players who are asking about Reaper wing colors, which is something that is certainly a reasonable request that I think that we could definitely look into. What else? Let's see. There are a whole bunch of people now making suggestions about specific packs, but this isn't the place because there's not a good way for us to correlate the chat and move that. The form is probably good.
We'll get the word out, and I'll put it into the anniversary guide that yes, once you redeem the code, log out and then log back in to claim your gift.
Yes.
So, yep.
Let's see. The 64-bit client texturing is something that if you could give me, if we could find an example of specifically what you're seeing texturing and where, so we can reproduce it, that would be useful. People, let's see.
We can ask, this is a fairly challenging question related to our Epic Destiny discussion.
Sure.
There was a rumor that came out last summer that we were going to level gate Epic Destiny tiers. Is that still part of the design plan?
That is, so what will happen is we kind of want to try to do our cake and eat it too. There will be a pool of Epic Destiny points that activate when you kind of hit the first levels, so that you do get the boost up front. But then after that, the ones that you get per level will be reduced. So you won't get everything up front. You will have to, as you go up, have a chance to spend your points, and do that. So yes, I know that there are some people that would rather have everything up front, and I know it's a hard answer to hear that no, there will be points that you will earn as you level, but also it won't be everything. We plan on having a pool at the bottom end that as soon as you hit, you'll be able to spend a pool of Epic Destiny points and then go up from there. So yes and no, like probably just enough so that it will feel good to go up, and then you'll still have things to buy as you go up. That's our current goal.
I think maybe to some extent the hope is that the system itself will be revamped enough that that won't be a driving concern.
Right. Like right now, I think that a lot of players are like, "Oh my God, doing the lower levels without a full tree will really be terrible." But I don't think that that will be the case. Like I think that you'll get enough stuff up front, and Epic Destinies will offer enough things that it'll be cool.
Yeah. What about guild airships? When are we going to be able to carve out time for guilds, huh?
Guild revamp is uh,
Never ending.
no,
We always want to. We always
we
want
don't
to.
touch it. We don't touch it enough, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
right now I've been discussing with one of the things that we have specifically put in is for extra resources to do guild revamps for both games. And that's an ongoing design thing that we're discussing. So I can't really talk about it right now because I don't want to get people's hopes up and then have us not be able to go into that as full as we'd like. But yes, it is on our radar to do. There is some class and tree specific stuff that's way beyond the scope of a talk like this, so I probably won't go into specific class balance questions, other than like, hey, is Monk going to be revamped? And we had some ideas on that. Like I know a lot of people were talking about Monk, and we'd like to look into that. I think one of the things about Monk is I'd like the finishing moves to feel better. And I think the team agrees, and we have kind of looked into the monk thing. I think what happened is the last time we looked into the monk, we had some awesome ideas, but like the revamp got so big that when we actually scoped it, it was like, oh my God, like that is huge. Let us get through bows and the tree, and then we can kind of look into it.
Yeah. The bow, someone had asked, and unfortunately I can't remember the exact question nor where it was posted, but they were asking about whether the bow changes would be more focused on a universal tree or an enhancement tree, or whether these kind of changes are more game-wide in scope.
The first set would be game wide. Like I said, we had to do a lot of animation work to help fix that. I think that we may even do some that way, lower level characters will shoot faster out of the gate, so you don't have to wait high level to make it feel good. We don't want to increase the overall rate at which bows fire at the top end, because obviously we're all working on lag, and increasing attack rate is something that we have to be very careful about. The animations just look and feel better too. And then obviously we're working on numbers to bring bows back more in line with crossbows across the game, and then we'll additionally have a tree that will offer people extra opportunities to do bow stuff.
Yep.
Yes, we'd love to do another thing for the last stateroom. That has been one of the things that gets bumped down for a number of years now. It's like it's always kind of in the ninth spot of things we want to do. So it's hard. Like it hurts me to see people saying, "Oh, I want to do something in the last stateroom," because yes, we do too. And it's hard to bump to. Sometimes it's so hard to prioritize this stuff. Like you have darlings that you would love to see in, and it's like, "Oh God, I would love to do this, but we just can't." It hurts me.
I could do a head desk on the keyboard thing of just banging, "I want the test kobold. I want the test kobold." Yeah, I know.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
does, and just like, okay, is it time for the test? And then something else comes in,
Yeah.
at the last minute, and bumps it down. You're like, oh my God,
Yeah, yeah.
give us something.
When is the next Crystal Cove? Someone asked in Twitch chat. That'll be happening in June, I believe, is our current target date for Crystal Cove.
Yeah. Let's see, what else?
I think we're actually I think we've covered a lot of questions here. I'm not
Somebody,
sure. I
someone
think,
wants to get more dragon gems.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
So that's something that we should do. Like people should not be cut out from.
Hmm.
The only problem is that if we said that the Dragon Gem, most of the time we try not to do absolutely exclusive stuff so people can get it. What we do is like, hey, it's exclusive for a time, but eventually we'll bring it back. So I have to look at where the dragon came before
That
I
was
make
from
any
the
promise.
anniversary. We gave that out, I believe, either last year or 2 years ago. 2 years
Yeah.
ago, something like that. Similar to the house cloaks that are debuting in the anniversary event this year, after being given away a couple years ago as the anniversary gift. So if you've got party favors, you can fill any gaps you have, or maybe you weren't playing then, or you weren't playing on Jurassico then, or whatever, right? You in Jurassico then, or whatever. You can get that stuff now, and I that seems like a likely future place for something like the Sentient Dragon Gem as well, but we didn't do that work for this year.
I mean, I guess the question is someone's asking about a speedrun server, but kind of isn't that what hardcore is? I mean,
Well,
I guess,
it depends. Depends. Hardcore is you don't move that fast. I think
well,
that,
that's
yeah,
true. You have to be careful, but like,
yeah.
most of the speed runs I've seen for other games usually are like when you're dead, you're dead. Like also, honestly, if you're doing a speed run, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's hardcore or not. If you die at level 10 on your way up, you're probably going to lose anyway. And we open up enough hardcores that the players can run speed run runs on a new hardcore season fairly easy, and then just track who hits 21st. But yeah, one of the things is that um, I don't know that we would want to do it on live servers. We'd probably because it'd be very hard to start everyone in the same place. That's so much easier to do by just opening up a new hardcore season.
The closest thing we had for a speedrun event is there was a challengified version of the fight with the Spinner of Shadows that was used for
Yeah.
our conventions, and that was like a 3-minute challenge. That kind of thing would be probably what we would do were we to offer some sort of speedrun challenge. I think that might be a good kind of way to do it because it puts people at the same place every time, and then you've got 3 minutes to achieve a goal. So it's kind of a high score based thing.
I would love to deep dive into specific loot
Yeah.
options, but we'll never be able to do them on these questions AMA. It's just out of scope. So some of the people that are talking about like, hey, let's talk about like specific loot or specific class balance trees. We just can't. This is not a good format for it. So I apologize. I'm not trying to duck your stuff. It's just I won't be able to do that for our AMAs.
Yep. I think. I think I'm still not seeing a lot of like super big questions. Some wish list stuff that I appreciate everyone asking in that. But I'm not seeing a lot of stuff that I think we could probably wrap things up, being as we are at 1 o'clock here today. So why don't we just thank everyone again and remind people that you can go to ddo.com/15th anniversary, ddo.com/15th anniversary to find out all this stuff, get your free gifts, and what have you as we celebrate 15 years. Any kind of last things you want to bring up here, Sev?
I'm sure there are. I'm sure that there's like 8 things I forgot about cool stuff that we
Yeah.
want.
Well,
We'd like to do one of the things is we would like to try to get in a new iconic this year. I don't know if we can do it honestly, as we're looking in with the chances of with the different ways of doing remote. But I saw some other people asking about race iconic, and we're kind of looking at, hey, can we do this, and tentatively trying to shoehorn it in. I can't make a promise there, but it is something that you might see.
yeah, awesome. All right, well, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Thank you for being here. We're going to have to do this again in the relatively near future. These have gone pretty well in recent months, and I think we're going to keep doing this sort of thing here in the future.
Sure.
So
One of
thanks.
the things
Oh, go
One
ahead.
of the things the players have said is that they're like, we would like more communication, and the AMAs and doing them like more frequently. I think the last one was what, a month, 6 weeks.
Month-ish ago, yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
is one of our ways of addressing like it isn't. I know that it isn't the giant amount of communication that I would love to do, but hopefully it will kind of answer questions rather about future stuff. So
All right. Thanks everyone for watching. Talk to you again soon. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone.